For Telesur, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Tonight we start off in Burkina Faso, where protesters are celebrating the forced resignation of President Blaise Compaoré. It comes after 2 days of mass demonstrations, which included protesters setting fire to parliament. The president handed in his resignation on Friday. That puts an end to the president's 27-year rule. The head of Burkina Faso's armed forces took power on Friday under General Traoré, one of the president's former military aides. We go to Turkey, where a convoy of Iraqi Kurdish fighters started rolling out towards the frontier with Syria to help defend the besieged town of Kobani. Some 150 Iraqi fighters had been waiting in a military warehouse in Turkey for the last 3 days before being deployed. The Kurdish town of Kobani has been surrounded by Islamic State group militants for months. Kurdish citizens lined the road to the border, cheering on the fighters as they drove by. And we go to Palestine now, where Israeli authorities have decided to reopen the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third holiest site of Islam. Thousands of people attended the midday prayers, and there were clashes between Palestinian and Israeli police. With the latest, here's our correspondent Noor Harazin.
On Thursday evening, Israeli authorities decided to reopen the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound after ordering its closure. The moves came after Arab and USA calls for Muslims worshippers to be allowed into the holy site. However, Israeli authorities continue to impose strict restrictions on Palestinian worshippers entering the mosque for Friday prayers. The Israeli police said in a statement late Thursday that men under 50-year-old were not allowed to enter the compound to pray on Friday. Meanwhile, over 2,800 Israeli policemen and border guard soldiers will be deployed across neighborhoods of Jerusalem. The Islamic Jihad and Fatah movements had called for a day of rage against the Israeli authorities following the killing of Mu'taz Hijazi. The Islamic movement also called for Palestinians of Jerusalem to stay in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and for marches supporting the mosque. Protests in the West Bank have escalated, with reports from Palestinian medics confirming that at least 10 injuries in clashes between Israeli forces and Palestinian youth after Israeli soldiers opened fire and shot tear gas on Palestinian protesters. In Gaza, Palestinian political leaders from different factions joined Gaza's residents in a mass rally this afternoon to condemn the Israeli closure of the Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Jerusalem will always stay an Arab-Palestinian city, which is Muslim and Christian holy site. It belongs to Palestinians, and we will not allow Israel to keep on Judaizing it.
The Israeli restrictions follow a full day of closure to Muslim worshippers after the shooting of right-wing Rabbi Yehuda Glick at a rally the night before, aimed raising tensions and fears of a Jewish settler backlash. Noor Harazin, Telesur TV, Gaza.
And thanks to Noor, we go to Mexico now, where the search for the missing students continues. Mexico's Interior Minister Miguel Ángel Osorio Chong said today that he believes the students could be still found alive. From Mexico, here's our correspondent Clayton Kahn with the latest.
Students from at least 80 universities and schools in Mexico, which form part of an intercollegiate assembly, have convened the third National and International Day of Action in strikes and mobilizations for today to primarily demand the return alive of the 43 disappeared Ayotzinapa students. However, the students are also calling for greater guarantees and support for public education institutions and reject what they say is a neoliberal policy to privatize universities. As we recall, the reason for which the Ayotzinapa students were in the town of Iguala, where they were attacked by municipal police, was because they were independently collecting funds for their school, since the rural teacher training colleges have had major budget cutbacks in recent years. The students also say that they believe fundamentally the rule of law and a functioning state in Mexico is decomposed, prompting events like those in Iguala to occur with almost entire impunity, and that the actions of civil society and the only true motivator for the government to act comes from the students themselves. This is Clayton Kahn reporting for Telesur in Mexico City.
Thanks to Clayton. We go to Colombia, where 12 miners have died in an underground coal mine accident. Thursday afternoon, the mine flooded and trapped the miners who were working over 200 meters within the cavern. According to officials, all the miners drowned. The accident took place in a mine in the northeastern region of Antioquia. That region has been the site of various mining accidents in recent years. In Venezuela, the government has reported a number of recent murders which officials point out bear a resemblance to practices used within Colombian paramilitarism. Our correspondent Rachel Boothroyd takes a look at those links.
The Venezuelan Communist Party has requested that authorities carry out an official investigation after explosives were launched at its youth headquarters last week. It is just the latest in a series of attacks that have been carried out against left-wing political leaders and buildings over the last year, leading many to believe that there is an increasing paramilitary presence in the country.
The right wing has consistently raised the flag of hate, of intrigue, of lies and of violence. Now it has begun to use paramilitary practices as an instrument of violence in order to achieve in the political field what it hasn't been able to do via the electoral route.
On October 1st, Venezuelan legislator of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Robert Serra, was found brutally murdered alongside his partner, Maria Herrera, at his home. It's an assassination which authorities have since confirmed as carried out by hired killers operating on the orders of Colombian paramilitaries. For Carlos Aquino, one of the leaders of the Venezuelan Communist Party, the increase in paramilitary activity is a phenomenon imported across the border from the neighbouring country.
These sectors, which were supposedly demolished just over 10 years ago in Colombia, an important part of them were initially brought to the Venezuela-Colombia border. From then on, over the past 10 years, they have been developing a process of consolidation, of adjustment, and setting up social and economic bases across wide sectors of our country.
Venezuelan authorities say that paramilitary interests are also behind the criminal exportation of Venezuelan food and medicines over the border to Colombia, an immense source of financial gain for the groups, as well as a way of destabilising the Venezuelan government. Rachel Boothroyd for Telesur in Caracas, Venezuela.
And thanks to Rachel, Cuba announced today that it will start the first international course for health officials teaching how to combat and prevent the Ebola virus. The course will be held in the Institute of Tropical Medicine Pedro Coori in Havana. The initiative was decided by 278 health specialists and directors from across the Americas who gathered for a special meeting in the country's capital. The course will include improving the country's surveillance systems for these types of diseases and strengthening both internal and cross-border communication. Catalan President Artur Mas announced today that he will ignore a new suspension of the Constitutional Court of Spain. The suspension was requested by the central government. In a press conference, Mas said that Catalonia will complete the preparations for the participation process.
They intend to confuse and scare people. They intend to confuse and frighten people in Catalonia. And they intend to water down the movement internationally. But they won't succeed. They won't succeed. I would like to call Catalan society to give a great lesson of democracy and good citizenship on November 9.
Italy on Friday confirmed the end of its search and rescue operation Mare Nostrum, responsible for saving tens of thousands of boat migrants stranded in the Mediterranean. A new operation termed Triton will begin on Saturday, according to the Italian Interior Minister. The new measure will be a much more limited mission. Obviously, we have the wrong video there. We're going to continue with this story. The decision in Italy comes after growing criticism, both within Italy and Europe, that the rescue mission was created an unintended pull factor for more migrants in makeshift boats to attempt the dangerous sea crossings. Rome's determination to shut down the costly operation has been denounced by aid groups, but the UN High Commissioner for Refugees expressed serious concern on Friday. We end it there. We hope you have a great weekend. We have plenty more on our website, telesurtv.net/English. We'll see you right back here on Monday.
Lo salvadoreño tiene el cielo por sombrero, tan alta es su dignidad en la búsqueda del tiempo en que florezca la tierra. Por los que han ido cayendo, en que venga la alegría, alabar el sufrimiento, en que venga la alegría, alabar el sufrimiento. Ellos no serán bandera para abrazarnos con ella, y el que no la pueda alzar, que abandone la pelea.